The title of this video is The Leadership of Lubavitch. It is being given and is copyrighted by Dovid Klein on the 25th day of the Jewish month of Sivan 5771, which corresponds to June of 2011. All rights are reserved. The Plus-Rebbe is the Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moses of this generation. That's, of course, in the sense that he leads us from above. And the Rebbe's 17th Yortzeit is coming up next week on the third day of the Jewish month of Tammuz, and this will be the Rebbe's 17th Yortzeit. So therefore, I'm dedicating this Torah lesson to the Plus-Rebbe of righteous memory. The Rebbe, for all the years of his leadership in the past, gave us tremendous influence. The Rebbe would conduct many Verbrengens, which is a Hasidic get-together, on the special Jewish days of the year. And throughout the course of every single year, there were very many of these special Jewish holidays and other special days. And in addition to that, the Rebbe very often, especially in the later years, would speak very frequently to just a very vast audience, of course focusing immediately on the Lubavitchers in Crown Heights, but since Lubavitch is all over the world, Lubavitchers everywhere would always listen to the Rebbe's Verbrengens and talks and public addresses. And the Rebbe, which I'm not going to really recount all the various activities now of the Rebbe, because there were way too many to really recount here in this brief lesson. But for all us Lubavitchers, the Rebbe gave us tremendous and very loving and very personal influence. Every single one of us Lubavitchers felt and still feels very close and connected to the Rebbe. And in addition, the Rebbe would receive just a huge volume of letters from people from all over, and the Rebbe wrote many people letters, and as the Rebbe himself said, if the Rebbe didn't, in a particular case, have the time or didn't feel the actual need to actually answer a person in a letter, the Rebbe always said that the blessings were always there. The Rebbe always gave the blessings that that particular person needed. And one of the big differences in Lubavitch today, as it used to be back then when we had the Rebbe here in a very open and revealed fashion, because at the present time the Rebbe passed away and he's up in heaven. But of course, it's a very complicated subject to just, say it very briefly in that kind of a way. So it's a really complicated subject when a very holy and righteous Jew, a tzaddik, passes away. It's not such a simple thing. But as I said at the beginning of this lesson, and this is based on the Rebbe's own talks about his father-in-law, the previous Lubavitcher+Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, that the Rebbe leads us from above. And I'll just leave it at that. But all through the years, and I'm speaking personally as a Lubavitcher, and my personal relations to the Rebbe as one of his Hasidim, and to my fellow Hasidim, and for that matter to all their Jews. But the difference between the situation now as it was then is a very huge difference. As I was saying a few minutes ago, the Rebbe gave a tremendous amount of influence for all the years of his leadership, and the Rebbe was appointed as the Rebbe in 1951, and the Rebbe passed away in 1994. And any Lubavitcher who's a definite and solid Lubavitcher can tell you about, from his personal experiences, about the tremendous influence and actually the word in Lashon HaKodesh Hebrew is hashpah, influence, which means that the Rebbe would relate to each chassid on a personal level, not just some public figure who was totally distanced from his followers. So every individual Lubavitcher chassid felt a very close personal connection to the Rebbe, especially when this particular chassid would be in 770, for whatever particular function was going on in 770, the Central Lubavitch Synagogue. And even when he would write a letter from whatever city he happened to live in. And to sum it up in general terms, the major point of this lesson is that for all the years of the Rebbe's leadership in the past, there was just a lot of influence from the Rebbe, and anybody in the world who's familiar with the Rebbe and his teachings and his life's work knows firsthand what a tremendous impact the Rebbe had on world Jewry and all the other people in the world. And on a personal level, I can say personally as a Lubavitcher chassid, the last 17 years since the passing of the Rebbe had been extremely difficult because at least in an outward fashion, we don't have that influence that we used to have from the Rebbe, and actually it's gone to the other extreme. I talked to somebody in Lubavitch, and actually a number of people, and based on what they said, it seems like today everything in Lubavitch is local. Local synagogues, local Chabad houses, and today in Lubavitch there is no general, very big influence emanating from anywhere to all the Lubavitchers in the world, and of course, all the Jews and all the people in the world like there used to be. Personally, I find this to be very difficult, and from talking to good, close personal friends of mine, I'm absolutely sure that everybody finds it very difficult. That's what a good number of close personal Lubavitch friends of mine have told me, about their personal feelings. One particular rabbi even put it in the terms that there's a big void, and you can't get around it. I mean, that's the fact of the reality of the situation. And the major thrust that I want to get across in this lesson, one second, I have to check the time. The major thrust that I want to get across in this lesson is that there's a tremendous need for a klaus dika hashpah, a very big, broad-scale, general influence by big Lubavitcher Rabbanim and Mashpim, rabbis and personal advisors, that I feel the solution would be, and I'm absolutely sure of it, and I'm not saying it's the only solution or the final or the only solution, but if one or more groups of very big Lubavitcher Rabbanim Mashpim, rabbis and personal advisors, would get together and plan out and design a program of hashpah, of this general overall influence of Torah, of study, of the teaching of the Torah, and of instruction in all the various and many facets of Chabad-Lubavitch Hasidism. I'm sure that would go a long way towards filling this void left by the Rebbe's passing. And